day of September 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video exercise that I do every day at about 5:30 a.m. from my balcony or somewhere here in Japan or somewhere, wherever my life may be. I've been doing this for so many years through so many homes. I guess I can't constrain it to any one particular place. As the days begin to shorten, I imagine it won't be long before I'll be seeking out the mini stop again, like I did last winter, right? So I can have at least a little um, safety from the cold and the dark. Anyway, I do this video exercise to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. Note to self, I need to make sure I renew that domain name. It's coming up. I also used this time to think about the last 24 hours, incidents that happened that were particularly challenging or interesting, particularly challenging or interesting insofar as I did really well or I'm looking for things where I did things really well or really poorly. The stuff in between I'm not so concerned about. The stuff in between that I'm taking in my stride, the challenges that I'm managing is part and parcel of the day without much thought. The stuff where the muscle memory just kind of kicks in like a karate move. That's stuff I'm not so worried about. I've got that stuff covered. It's the stuff where I need tuning, and that usually is on the outer edges of either exceptional performance, where I want to note what was exceptional. Exceptional being the extreme, the circumstance was extreme, like being pulled over by the Japanese police and composing myself and comporting myself and handling myself very well in a challenging circumstance like that, more challenging than getting pulled over in the United States where I'm at home. Things like that, where I want to know, how is it that I did that? What did I do in that circumstance? And that's a real example. I'm also very interested in circumstances where I perform very poorly. Usually what that means is where emotions rise, because that's the definition of poor performance, is where something challenging occurs. The emotions, anxiety, the frustration, the second guessing rise. And instead of being able to stop it and control it and then manage it later, which is what I try to do, I try to hold on to it, keep it from rising too high, get through the circumstance, and then later come back and think about it. And if there's emotion to dispense with, find a way to dispense that out, and usually through the exercise of reason, I can think my way through. It's amazing. I don't know about others, I'm sure you can if you try, but I don't hear many people talk about this. I can think my way out of emotional circumstances. The emotions don't go away with the thoughts, but I think maybe I'm just distracting myself long enough with reasoned rational thought or interesting thought that the emotions kind of bubble away on their own. It's like turning the heat off on a pot, and if you wait long enough, it becomes room temperature again. I occupy my time while waiting with thoughts about, thinking about the situation and identifying where I stumbled, if I stumbled, and then how I could do better in the future. In the past, that's been a big part of this morning exercise, is going over circumstances like that. Honestly though, it's been weeks since I've had a single incident like that. For the last few weeks, instead, I've been commenting on the other major theme of this video, which is I call it the climactic. Not climactic like a climax, but climactic like the weather. But it's bigger than weather, it's climate. The climatic, there, I'm saying it wrong, huh? I've been saying it wrong all along. It's not climactic, it's climatic. Say it differently. The climatic circumstances of my life, which are very interesting of late because I've been going through such gigantic changes, namely retiring, the end of the active years of parenthood, empty nester, moving countries, buying a house, and embarking on this new life of freedom. Big things. No wonder there's climatic and climactic observations appearing in my notes more than anything else. Further note, this is a personal journal, so I'm at liberty to talk about anything I want for as long as I want. I will talk about death, and I talk about other things that make people uncomfortable, so just be forewarned. You're welcome to listen in, watch if you like, look over my shoulder, so to speak, while I do my diary entry here. I will read and respond to comments and criticisms at the end. Okay, let's get into it. It's always interesting how when I start this camera every morning, I've been doing this for a long time, there's always a little voice inside my head that says, what are you going to talk about today? Has a little bit of doubt. Do I have anything to talk about? And I always do. It's interesting how that's the case. And as I sipped my coffee just now, I was like, oh, here you go, Kurt. Now you're saying you're going to get into it. Just what are you going to get into? I'm often as surprised as anyone else might be, if anyone's watching. All right, so the note that I have for today, and I do keep a notebook with me. Did I forget something important? I certainly did. I forgot to say a deep and heartfelt thank you to my Patreon supporters, my YouTube members, and those who watch my videos. I really appreciate your support. Your largesse went a long ways yesterday. Yumiko, my wife, and I were out having fun in the afternoon, as we typically do, and we were at a 150-year-old Japanese coffee shop. It hasn't been a coffee shop for 150 years. It was a barn for most of that time. Turned into a coffee shop in the mountains. And they had a book for sale, which was a book of interesting places in Shizuoka Prefecture to visit, like that barn turned coffee shop. So I bought it. It was 2,600 yen. So what was that, about 18 bucks, something like that? I bought it using the funds that come my way by way of Patreon, YouTube memberships, and the or Google AdSense that I get from people who the ads that are placed in my videos, as well as money comes from my book sales and up until recently the use of my business. But thank you, everybody. You bought that book for us, and Yumiko and I will use that to help us launch ourselves off into adventures here in Shizuoka. I forgot about something else, didn't I? The weather. I had checked just before the camera started. It was 24 degrees. It's now 25 degrees. I'm going to go with 24. 24 degrees and 82% humidity. All last week we were stuck at about 25 degrees and 85% humidity. Just a slight touch of a drop in temperature, although it's already gone to 25. Today should be a bit easier than yesterday. I think, with a little luck, yesterday was the last super hot day of the year, although I imagine I'll be shown to be wrong. I hope so, because I've struggled to get through this first summer back in Japan without an air conditioner. I'm almost there. I've just got an electric fan. It's a little point of pride that I have. Whoops, there's one of those little bugs that I saw yesterday in my coffee. Come on. I think they're miniature flying ants. Very teeny tiny flying ants. Okay, let's get into it. Let's read my note. My note from yesterday, under the category of last 24 hours, has one simple item. Routine emerging in a welcome way. That's nothing more than what it is. I'm finding that my wife and I have entered into a new routine that organically developed around us by way of our living our days, and that involves mostly the mornings to ourselves and the afternoons together. We come together for our dog walk and our breakfast each morning, and then we're doing our own thing, typically in our separate rooms. I'm up here in my room on the second floor. Yumiko's downstairs in the living room on the first floor with Ollie the black dog. I'm up here with Rudy the white dog, and we do whatever the heck we want, right? Whatever it is. For me, it means engagement, working on my YouTube channel, writing videos, social media posts, leaning into my identity now. The last thing that seems left to me of being a YouTuber. And so I'm going to tell people when they ask me now, what do you do, instead of saying I'm retired, or instead of saying I do nothing, which is the way you say it, which is the way my wife describes herself in Japan. In Japanese, I'm going to say I'm a YouTuber. I'm leaning into that, and I do that through the morning. And then at about 11:30, we go out and take Dad, my father-in-law, out to lunch. and then we're free in the afternoon. And we'll use that book that we found to find fun things to do, like we did yesterday. I'm noting that this is another climatic observation. A routine is emerging in a welcome way, just the routine that I mentioned to you just now. I do want to mix things up a little bit. I've been shopping for a doggy push cart, the type that you can cook on as a trailer on the back of a bicycle, because as the weather begins to cool, I want to set out in the afternoons with little Rudy in the push cart, because he's not much of a walker, and go out and instead of spending my afternoons or my mornings here, I can spend my mornings or the afternoons wandering around the community. One of the great things about Japan, everywhere in Japan, is that it's an extremely pedestrian-friendly place where interest abounds in every corner, and walks are amazing, even if they're just in your local neighborhood. That's all I have to say for yesterday. Nothing really noteworthy to say from it. Oh, I did get a call. I did have an interview in the morning with a reporter from the Japan Times. They wrote to me. I was going through my email. I saw a message from the reporter. I responded right away. She's asking for an interview. I said, yeah. I'm asking when I was available. I said, I'm available today, almost every day, anytime you want. And she said, how about would you have time today, tomorrow, or Wednesday? I said, I'm available right now. So I gave her my phone number. She called. It's a very interesting interview. The reporter wanted to talk to me about, I'm saying they, I don't want to give away their identity. I want to, not even their gender. I don't know, it just feels like private, right? Even though they're a reporter. A giant hornet just buzzed by. They wanted to know, they were interested in the way that the U.S. tariffs had impacted businesses in Japan that do business with the United States, and they were particularly interested in the way that I had just thrown up my hands, at least on social media, and said, that's it, I'm done, I walked away from everything. They were like, wow, this guy just gave up, he didn't even try. So they wanted to get my opinion on things. And it was a very interesting interview because I did my best. I showed up. It was just like showing up for work. It's nice to hear my clock again, even though it's never right. I showed up and did a good interview, but it was certainly not a heartfelt interview. My heart wasn't in it. I've moved on from, that business, but I gave them what they wanted. I told them that I was probably an unusual an unusual example of a business impacted on it, because I didn't do it for a livelihood. It was just kind of a hobby and a springboard into, whatever it is, whatever freedom follows the end of a career. And the reporter was especially interested in that. In fact, very interested in that in many ways. So they actually asked me quite a number of questions about that experience, although that was not germane necessarily to the topic at hand, which is the impact of the tariffs. I suggested that they probably should talk to other merchants who might, be indeed gaining their livelihood from this, who might have more to say about their plans and impact and what they're going to do about it. Because for me, I just gave up. I just walked away. Even though I'm still listing one or two listings a day, I walked away. It's like turn my back. I walked away. You know what's interesting? I just realized something. I turned away from my business without looking back, in the same way that I sometimes describe the way I want to die, which is, if I was to die right now, have a heart attack, fall over, I want to die in such a way that I go face first into the concrete without a single backward glance to my family, a single backward glance to my life, a single backward thought to any of it that I'm leaving behind. I want to have everything in such a square and ordered way, not ordered in terms of organized, but ordered in terms of tidily managed. I have tidily managed any issue that I need to attend to in order to die with my affairs in order, my relationship sound, and my life's work complete, which is the sum and total of the first objective in my book, Going Alone. Being always prepared to die. That's the objective. That's how I want to die. I want to die without looking back. Not even if my family's standing up. Not one last look at my family. Doesn't mean I don't care about them. It doesn't mean that I'm running away to death to escape anything. It just simply means that my affairs, my relationships, and my life's work are so settled that there's not a need for a single glance. It's like leaving an apartment that you've lived in for a long time, and having done such a good job of tidying up the apartment, knowing in your head that everything was tidy, leaving the key on the counter with a pleasant note for the landlord, thank you for the time at this apartment, it was great, and walking out the door without looking back as the door closes behind you. That's exactly how I'm leaving this business behind. I've just put two and two together. I've died in my business the same way that I aspire to die in real life. Could this be marked as a practice run? I think it could. I think it's quite genuine in that capacity. Not the real deal, certainly not as potent as true death, as actual death coming upon me, but I think a good surrogate and substitute maybe. Very interesting to note. So back to the point, I without going on and without making the interview all about my personal life, I conveyed to the reporter that I'd be happy to answer any questions that they have, that probably they would want to talk to other people who have more game in the game than me to get a clearer picture and a better picture. Okay, now let's move on to the discussion of the creed in my book. I already talked about principle number one, objective number one, being always ready to die. Now let's talk about objective number two, which is to make good and effective use of my time. Don't want to waste my days. Never. Not a moment. Number three is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Precisely the 8 objectives and 35 principles in my book. Number four is the cultivation of good emotional reactions. I already talked about this a little bit at the start. Seeing the emotion rising, being able to put a stop on it, get through the situation, and manage the emotion on the backside. Number five is to perform good actions relative to my values. Number six is I perform good actions relative to my values by the tuning of my life and mind in accordance with my values, so I don't have to really give a lot of active thought to it. If it seems like I brush past number five every day rather quickly, it's because it doesn't really need attention. It's like having a car on cruise control. As long as the car is well tuned and oiled, and as long as I've got the map setting correctly in place and the stereo tuned just right, I don't really have to think much about the accelerator or the brake anymore. We're on autopilot. That's what number five is like when you get to that point. Number six is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities. Like, I can't quite reach the screen. It's beyond my scope of ability at this time without moving my feet or leaning my body to push any of the buttons. I would then use #apathy to be apathetic towards my inability to control the screen. Likewise in life, the things that are beyond my control I don't really do anything about. For example, I will pull out an example and give that to you from yesterday. I was having lunch with my wife and her father, and my father-in-law, and he has partial dentures, and he has this habit that we're sitting there, and he sits right across from me. Well, my wife sits here, I sit here, and he sits right across when we're eating lunch together. And he has this, he doesn't like to have, he can chew without that one particular implant. And sometimes he forgets, he usually takes it out before we get there. And he was raised, well, I don't need to go there. Sometimes he forgets. Yesterday was one of those days. And so he's sitting there and he eats very loudly with an open mouth, and lots of chomping and stuff, and food's spitting out. And he's in his 90s now. So he's on cruise control of a whole other level. And I don't even attempt to just, I try not to look sometimes or hear. Anyway, but sometimes he does stuff that like really it's hard to ignore. Like suddenly realizing that he'd left in the mid-chew with the food in his mouth, realizing that he'd left one of his denture in there, and reaching in, yanking that thing out and placing it on the table right next to his plate. Do I need to say anything more? So it's in that moment that I utilize my principles and objectives. And sometimes I have to lean into them strongly to recognize a couple of things. One, the life will not go well, right? Sometimes you're not going to enjoy your lunch in peace, right? Especially when you're eating with my father-in-law. Hashtag life will not go well. The other one is hashtag nature. Nature is not this type of nature. It's the nature of things, the nature of people, the nature of what is. And I have to realize that that's hashtag the nature of my father-in-law. He was raised in a different time, in a different whole different way than me, where chewing with your mouth open and talking while you're chewing and spitting your food out is just perfectly fine. And the whole family that he raised is adjusted to that. I'm the odd man out in that environment. Hashtag nature. It's also his nature being in his 90s to be beyond reproach of a sort. Right? I mean, his kids try to, tell him about things that he does that are difficult. Like one of the reasons we go and spend lunch with him every day to keep him company and to provide him lunch. He can't make his own lunch anymore, but also to make sure that he takes his medicine after lunch. And every day after lunch, he forgets to take his medicine, and my wife, reminds him to take his medicine. He's beyond reproach. I mean, beyond correction. He's in his 90s now. Hashtag nature. It is the nature of the way that man is, that he's not going to remember his medicine. He's not going to close his mouth when he eats. He's not going to refrain from talking while chewing and spitting all over the place. And he's not going to refrain from pulling his teeth out and putting them on the table. Now, all this by way of recognizing objective number 6, recognizing true limits and true opportunities. It is beyond my reach to do anything about any of that stuff. It's not even my place to do that. That's his home, his family. I'm the odd man out. It is, hashtag, an opportunity for me to learn to exercise temperance, self-restraint, um, uh, 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 kind of an inner peace, so to speak, whatever I'm striving, something I'm grasping for straws. Sometimes I am grasping for straws when in those situations. But it's beyond me, right? I'm not going to I'm not going to be able to do anything about it, and I would not want to do anything about it. But I'm going to let that man. Oh, and the other thing is, he'll do all that. Well, he lifts his shirt up. I won't do it. He'll lift his shirt up to about here, showing the underside, or just take the whole shirt off altogether. He's a total blue-collar Japanese working man. And it ain't a pretty picture. All beyond the scope of my reach. So I don't. I saw it, the tooth came out, plopped down next to the plate. I kind of glanced at it, used the emotion kind of, hashtag limits, hashtag temperance, hashtag nature, hashtag life will not go well. Certainly not the horror show. I'll just finish my lunch, I'll keep my eyes on the plate, finish my meal, tidy it up, and sit and wait, well, the requisite 10 minutes while my wife waits for Dad, hoping that he'll take his medicine, which he won't. She'll remind him, and then he finally will, and our work there is done. Principle, or objective number 7, is to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. And if it sounds like that's contrived, a lot of what I do in terms of allegiance to objective number 7 is fully contrived. I'll be the first to admit it. Most of the time, the careful, measured tones of my speaking are not deliberate in any way. That's not how I normally am. That's not how I was. If you look back at my old softypapa 1.0 videos, that's a different guy. Very fast talking, fast thinking, lightning fast, spewing it out. Kind of annoying in a way. And the decades before YouTube came around in my 30s were even more so, 20s even more so. Not at all measured. I sought after this way of being because I knew that if I could become more careful in my living, my thinking, and my speaking, and attentive to my hearing, that I would live a better life. And it's certainly the case. So objective number 7 is real important to me. Number 8 is the objective of balance, both my physical balance and my mental balance, it's like objective number 5. I don't actually have to work very hard at it, because if I attend to the first 7 objectives, and truth be told, I don't know why I'm leaning into a mic, but truth be told, all I really need to attend to most carefully is objective number 1, being ready for death. If I'm ready for death, balance follows. The only thing that's going to knock me off my feet now is death itself, or an event so beyond the scope of my normal preparations and readiness that it'll exercise my basic capabilities, and will earn itself a note in my notebook for tomorrow's discussion. Okay, now, that was all 8 objectives. Today I'm going to read one principle from the book. I'm going to read the principle of distraction, which was a later principle that I added when I realized how I was using my job, my hobbies in a way, my very busyness of life as a distraction to something very big, or very nothing, which is namely when I went out to the desert and had the adventures which facilitated the writing of Going Alone. I was in deep wilderness, a moonscape actually, very much like the moon, almost no plants, one of the driest, if not the driest spot in North America, outside of the Arctic. I mean, it literally is so. The area around, the desert around Siberia Ghost Town is, I believe, has the lowest precipitation in the lower 48 states. So it's a moonscape out there, and that was where I apprehended and came up with the idea of the great indifference, which is the universe, a universe devoid of God. It's the absence of deity that seems to pervade the universe, and is representative of the of the indifference that the universe has towards our well-being. And in part, it helps us to make sense of the wholesale suffering that seems to go on not only with us, but with all life that's around us. The nature red in tooth and claw that would seem to be unnecessary to a planned universe, but nevertheless is. That is a great indifference, and recognizing or spotting that and trying to make sense of it is a very worthwhile endeavor, a good use of time. Distraction then speaks to whatever it is that I do, and I think all of us do, to not see that. A lot of us don't even know. I think we all do this, and I think in the end there's a part of our brain that it's entertainment in a way to be distracted by hobbies and family and school and career and politics and religion and debate and gossip and all these other things. It's kind of an entertaining thing, and it facilitates society, but it also distracts us from asking the question, just what is this that we exist in? Is there a reason that we're here? And if not, what do we make of that? If not beyond the mere biological mandate to reproduce, and there's nothing else beyond that, then what do we make of that? That is what distraction is all about. So there we go. And the principle of distraction on page 263 of the book, principle number 19, has a sub-principle, playing in the sand. That's because, it'll unfold. And there's a quote by Matthew Arnold. What is the course of the life of mortal men on the earth? Most men eddy about here and there, eat and drink, chatter and love and hate, gather and squander, are raised aloft, are hurled in the dust, striving blindly, achieving nothing, and then they die, perish, and no one asks who or what they have been, more than he asks what waves in the moonlit solitudes mild of the midmost ocean have swelled, foamed, and for a moment gone. Now, I'm starting to think that I included this quote twice, because I seem to remember it from a principle further back, but that's okay. It's such a good principle. That summarizes the state of things perfectly, right? All the things that we do in the course of our life that may matter ultimately for naught, other than the fact of the perpetuation of our species in the larger scale of things, just like the tableau of waves in the ocean in a particular moment pass for naught in the next moment. Here we go, let me read my part. The principle of distraction. At every turn in life, excuse me, the principle of distraction. At every turn in life, I don't know if I can read. My throat is kind of gone. Pardon me, I should clear my throat with the microphone here. One more try. If this doesn't work, we'll skip it. At every turn in life, we desire not to see. We turn our heads to look, not away, but towards something which might cause us not to see, the distraction. The thing we do not want is to observe the emptiness which resides behind and before and between and within it all. We do not wish to sense the negative silence of the universe's apparent vacuum of purpose. We do not want to know that death is forever beyond a nighttime soon to come, which we can neither know nor avoid. And so we busy ourselves with school and work and family and friends and hobbies and interests and gossip and joy and sorrow and peace and gratitude and anxiety and angst and ecstasy and the very fact of the observance that we are alive. Anything at all will do. Anything to avoid the awful aspect and great indifference of a soulless universe without God. Yet, more and more, I am less inclined to fill the empty with my own fearful, distracted voice, increasingly preferring substance to filler, though substance is harder to find and still harder to hold, leaving me often with nothing at all. But I am all right with that now. I'm at last better without the distraction of life and death, which I know is not. Yeah, wishful thinking, Kurt. I remember when I wrote this and I was thinking I was beyond it, but I wasn't. Nevertheless, I continued to play in the sand, looking for sand, digging for sand, everywhere sand, like all of us, distracted by sand in our quest for sand. So much busyness, so much fuss and bluster, so much restless, apparent life. I added that bit about the playing in the sand after one day sitting on the beach after an ocean swim, playing in the sand, thinking about how I was distracting myself with sand from the bigger question of the universe unfolding and orchestrating all about me. Orchestrating possibly in a mindless sense. All right, that's enough of that. As for the next 24 hours, it's a Tuesday, and that's literally what the note says. It's a Tuesday in parentheses, I think. And so I'll engage in the same routine that I mentioned before. That's the plan. Let's read comments. Good morning, Okoyama Ray. 24C and 56% back in Washington. Nice. It was 24 and 89 here. And it's gone up a little bit. It was 24, it's now 26. It's gone up in 30 minutes since I started. Tim says, good morning, weather check here in the UK at 9:36 p.m., 11.7C and 83% humidity, down to 8C later tonight. Summer is slipping away. Wow, it certainly is. Robert says hi to everybody and reports in Napanee, Ontario at 20C and 47% and an AQI of 20, a little better than before, huh? Tim says hi. Robert says hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert. Evelyn, there she is. Hi, friends. Very hot in Turkey. 11:30 p.m. I hope you're having a good time there. Amazing. I just picture you in having the time of your life. Robert says hi to Evelyn. We missed you yesterday, Evelyn. Ray says, no way I would do summer without AC in Japan. It hit 42 last week, and doing yard work was rough. Yeah, I know. It's funny. I think the 3 summers that I spent riding, going alone in the desert in over 100 degrees, almost every day, 110, 105, 110, kind of recalibrated my meaning of heat. But old age is creeping in, so I'm a little more vulnerable. Evelyn says hi to Robert, or hey to Robert. Tim says, I'm out for the count over 30C. Yeah, me too. It's amazing. I learned a new Japanese word yesterday. Coming back from radio exercise, talking to one of my neighbors in Japanese, and she taught me the word natsu bate. Bate means bate, like your head dropping, and so it means summer, like a summer knockout, right? So your comment about being knocked out. So it's a very useful word, and I get natsu bate over 30C as well, Tim. That's about the same measure, same for me. Hello, Erica is growing. Hello, it's good to see you. I hope you enjoy your day as well. I hope you enjoyed your day, if it's that part of the day. Julie, hello, Julie. Good to see you. I'm sorry I'm late again. That's all right. Better late than never. Robert says hi to Julie. Tim says, I have 2 front bridge teeth implants and remember being in a work meeting talking and teeth shot out across the meeting table. The shock was on everyone's face was priceless. So tell me you're of retirement age without telling me you're of retirement age, right? That's interesting, Tim. Great story. The embarrassment was worse. I'm sure it was. Yeah. I've had similar things happen with other bodily artifacts and effects. Tim, you're not alone. Eric is going, Tim, LOL, life and dental bridges are sure humble us. Julie says, I just started trying to temper my speech and reactions this year, so I will take lessons from you. Well, good luck with that. Let us know how it goes. Tim says, they need replacing, Erica, but the cost here in the UK is eye-watering. Erica says, similar in the USA. Tim says, I need a holiday in Turkey, Erica, as dental work is very cheap over there. Really? Julie says, I think being secure in our own self means not having to prove we are always smarter in every situation. Boy, ain't that the truth, right? And kind of being, I think also being secure in our own self means recognizing the scope of not just our knowledge and our capabilities, but where our knowledge and capabilities where we're not interested in, right? Like I don't worry that I'm ignorant, and I'm very ignorant. I don't worry especially about being, I do concern myself when I'm ignorant about something that I should be aware of. And I don't feel it in a guilty way. I feel it in a wanting way, like, oh, I want to learn more about that. But I'm not at all guilty. I don't feel at all uncomfortable. Like if someone is a subject matter expert about something that I don't care about, well, I'm going to 100% defer. I don't know about anything about that, right? That's come with time. I remember being in my 20s and kind of I had somehow latched on my sense of self-esteem was attached to my knowledge of absolutely everything, right? So tried to, have an opinion about everything, which certainly must have been annoying to the subject matter experts that knew better, right? Interesting point, Julie. Thank you for adding that. Julie says, at least that's what I'm thinking about now. Me too. I think that's, I think our maturity is showing. Evelyn says, I actually make the beginning of the meditation every night, but it starts later, so I don't always make it to the comments, but I always catch up soon afterwards. Well, I'm glad you can attend in whatever capacity and what you can, Evelyn. Your partnership, your companionship along the way has been very meaningful to me over these last few years that I've known you. All right, everybody. Well, that's the end of comments. It's 38 minutes in. This will give me enough time to wrap up a few things before I go and join the team for radio exercise. I hope you all have a great day. Sleep well. If it's the end of the day, wish you all the best. And let's try to, Julie, I saw that you were taking on the project of moderating. Let me make sure I get it right. Moderating speech and reactions. Let's endeavor on that worthwhile project together, Julie. I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep you in mind as I continue to try to do the same thing, including if today Dad takes out his teeth and puts them on the table at lunch again like he did yesterday. Be safe enough. Too safe, everybody. Bye-bye. Did I miss a comment? Oh, have a good day. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Evelyn.